Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Of extraordinary teammates. I'm going to hand it to Sean Nelson.
I'm going to continue the journey, and I'm also going to go around the room so that you guys can see how we focus on the core guiding questions to then ultimately come to our core problem. So over here, all of you guys have been identified as stakeholders. After identifying the guiding questions that Mike just went over, we then started brainstorming who are the stakeholders in the room. Employees, schools, hospitals. We then mapped each one of the stakeholders from low influence to high influence, high interest to low interest. And from there, we were able to then group each one of the stakeholders into 4 sections. One being current writers. We have people who own cars. We have businesses, and as well as developers. From there, each of the 4 team members decided where they're going to focus the next month and a half on developing more answers to these 4 guiding questions by meeting with stakeholders, conducting interviews, riding on the buses, and hitting all of the routes. And so from there, all of that data, we then came together and we plotted it all around the room so that we could get it all together. What is everybody wanting to say? What is everybody thinking? How do our stakeholders feel about creating better efficiencies? What are they saying? How do they want to expand the service? How do we create public-private partnerships? And from there, each one of the 4 team members then basically grouped and clustered different themes. And those themes came from their ideas of travel time, how the transit system is really designed, different routes. For expanding our service, we don't have any service on Sunday. We really like that. Dynamic routes, more routes and buses, and getting back to where the workforce is coming and going, how they're getting from point A to point B. So after we came through, grouped all of the guiding questions, we want to focus down on more of the core problems. So we voted on 4 specific insights that we came from here, and that was we want to focus on hours of operations, technology, routes, and partnerships. And from there, I'm going to introduce John to go through the next part of our journey to discover the core problem.
So, as Jason spoke to a little bit earlier, our initial core problem was kind of weak. It was pretty broad. Transform public transportation.
Can't hear.
Okay. So, with our initial problem statement, can you hear me? Is that better?
A little more.
Okay. So our initial problem statement was very broad, but now with the information that we have here, we can narrow that down and kind of hone in that core problem statement to what you see here today. How to improve the economic benefit of the public transit system for both the residents and the city. When we talk about economic benefit, we're not just talking about dollars and cents here. It's providing a service that benefits the residents of the community. It's giving them something that they want to use, and it's also giving them something that's sustainable. With the problem statement set for now, it was time to engage our residents again. We invited 40 residents from the community out to host an ideation session here in this room. On these tables, you can still see some of the notes that were jotted down from that session. A lot of the ideas, we said the crazier the better, because sometimes the crazy ideas were the ones that panned out into something bigger. So each table was given a scenario. They had some time to brainstorm that scenario and come up with ideas for it. They then compiled those all into these 2 lists over here, and they were able to vote on the ideas that they thought were most beneficial. And then from there, we took those ones with the highest votes And then we performed another round of ideation. And again, voted on those ideas as well. So once those ideas were voted on, we took the top 6 of the most voted on ideas, and this is the list that you see over here. So we have artificial intelligence and analytics. So this could be anything from location-based alerts, geofencing, target advertising, things like that. On-demand information on buses. So whether that's a mobile app that you can launch and know where buses are at all times, or GPS on the buses, things like that. Business partnerships. So some of the ideas that were brought forth here were like the Avera McKinnon Heart Hospital. Currently, there's no routes that go anywhere near that location. Could there be some type of partnership to where we run a custom route at certain times of the day to help those employees commute back and forth to work? Another suggestion that was brought up was maybe not create a whole other route, but extend an existing route later into the night to help support those second shift workers who are probably getting ready to go to work now. Employer incentive programs. So this one you can kind of think about like a gym membership incentive program through your employer. So you ride the bus, go to the gym certain days at times, you get a credit. Treat transit like infrastructure. So treat it like a road. Treat it like it's a basic necessity for everybody that's in the community. And then finally, expand fair payment options. So be able to accept credit cards on the bus. Again, maybe some type of mobile app that you can reload and use that as a payment method. Or just expand where you can purchase a regular bus pass. So if you're not at a Lewis Drug or the 2 downtown Sioux area metro locations, you can't really get a pass. So maybe expand it out on the model of like Wild Water West, where you can go to Get and Go and buy your pool pass. You can go to the Get and Go by your house and buy your bus pass. So before you all leave today, there is a cup in here, little stickies on it. I invite all of you to come up, take 3 stickies, and you can vote for which ideas you like on this list.
You can put all 3 dots on one thing, right?
You sure can, yeah. We've had a lot of people do that, actually. Yep. So, the skills that we've learned up until this point have been incredible. This process can really be tailored and tweaked to help solve so many problems within the city. As of now, our Public Works Division is actually using this process to help tackle some of their BHAGs and other things that they're working on within their department. And as Mike alluded to before, understanding the real problem is the key to finding the right solution. And without engaging the community, we can't make any impactful difference in the system the way it is today. With that, Jason, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you to these 3 brave souls. As much energy as our core team has, there's a few people that like to, work behind the scenes, and these folks were the ones willing to stand up and talk in front of you guys today in a place where we've never tried to present before, for a tool that we've never tried to launch before. And so I just really appreciate kind of the courage that these folks took, and the flexibility and patience that you guys have all demonstrated throughout the process. Just real quick, some of our next steps, we really have 2 coming up here. So prioritizing these ideas, legit, the dots that you put on this board are going to help us as part of our process, okay? So helping us get down to these things, and you'll notice they're all pretty good ideas, right? And so it's not that we're just going to take one and that's going to be the answer. It's just, it helps us prioritize which one you all think is most meaningful to you. So prioritizing these things and then prototyping ideas and testing them. So once we come up with the idea that's going to come next, we're going to build a prototype, and we're going to say, and it's probably not going to go citywide. It's probably going to start as a pilot, and we're going to test it. And we're going to see what works, and we're going to get feedback, and we're going to come back again, and we're going to do the whole process over again. So that's what prototyping is going to be, and it's going to take a whole series of these before we really come down and sink into the solution for this thing. So That's basically it in a nutshell. That's been what we've been working on, for a couple hours a week for the last 10, 12 weeks. So with that, I'll really open it up to anybody that has questions about the process or the system or the tools that we've learned or the insights that we've gained, and feel free to kick them off however you want. I knew you'd have one.
All right.
So this doesn't project through the mic, but we are recording this and we are going to share this with everybody. And so this mic just puts your voice through the video.
So I would guess if you asked majority of our residents what they would do to change our transit system, they would say expand hours and routes. So that's not up on there anywhere. So walk us through that, because I know that came up, and like through the basketball going through the snake, where that ended up. Does that live in there somewhere, or talk to me about that?
Yeah, so I think that this is just, again, a prioritization. We've captured everything that's ever been said about this process. I mean, that's kind of the deal, and we're rolling through that. Ideas abound. In fact, there's pens at the back of the room. If there's ideas that exist that don't show up anywhere, throw it on that table and they will exist in our program. So this is about prioritization on just the next step, because we can't prototype and test everything. We just gotta nibble down at one thing at a time. So, and these 6 things were lifted up as part of our citizen ideation process. And everything was on the board, including that, and the voting process, which you can see all the dots for, really lifted these up. So, that, again, Mayor Paul, I think it'd be something that somebody says, I got this answer, and that's cool. That is a thing, but this was a collaborative effort, and this is just what got raised up first. Fair?
Totally, and I think it's really...
Good question. Anybody else? Joe?
So building on both of those points, one thing I know about transit is there's a dichotomy there. You need to choose between, well, you don't need to choose, but at one end of the spectrum you have coverage. You can provide great coverage for the city, or you can try to increase ridership. The two often are in conflict for one another. So how is this team going to wrestle with that dichotomy as you move forward?
Anybody else want to take that one? I'm not saying it's because I don't want to give every answer here, but as a core team, anybody else want to comment on that? Go ahead.
So I think what Joe's trying to go.
Yeah, talking to the mic. Just come up front so people can see it too.
Yeah. So I think what Joe's trying to get at is, there's times that you're looking at trying to create huge amounts of coverage for the entire city, but in a lot of cases, you're not getting to the areas of the community that are going to have the most need for it.
Yes.
And in a lot of cases, that could be done in help with just looking at additional frequency on some of our routes and better direct routes, and we looked at that in some cases. So I think that's things that the core team will continue to look at. Where are those areas? That's a good one.
And another thing that just got raised up, and this happened a lot, and if you see on these 6, one of the ideas is to discuss business partnerships. I think a preconceived notion might be that a bus has to go to every single corner of the city. But actually, you just need to get a person to a bus. And so maybe there's partnerships out there. Maybe there's partnerships with some of the big employers that would be willing, instead of increasing the routes or increasing the coverage, to get those people to the buses somehow. And then get the buses the rest of the way, right? So like a first mile, last mile type of partnership. So even though the expanded route physically doesn't necessarily show up on that list, that doesn't mean that some of the solutions that come out of these 6 guiding questions and 6 ideas would not be one of the answers for that.
I'm Kathy Rifle Star, a citizen, and I made a little note where I put what I think is one of the most crucial things about transportation here. And that is that we now know that we need to do something about our dependence on fossil fuels, and we care about the environment that we live in, and we have available for our children. And it is not the fact that it used to be power plants, but now it's transportation. It's the #1 emitter of greenhouse gases. So I think any team that's focused on transportation needs to have that as one of the top concern. How we're going to reduce our carbon emissions, how we're going to make this a clean energy future for our city. We can be a modern city with a clean energy future. But I think what that means is we can't just say our goal is economic benefit of transportation for the city. The city may need to put millions of dollars into a good transportation system. It's not going to come out where the city makes money from transportation. We maybe need to put money into it. And so I'm really concerned about how to go with this group is come out worded like that. And I just think maybe some rethinking or retooling might be in order, considering the future we want to leave to our people that come after us.
Thanks. Anybody else?
There's buses that the city of Sioux Falls is going to probably be putting on the city-county auction this year. They're just sitting there not being used anymore. Wondered about the ability of, instead of surplusing them and selling them off, there was a suggestion here just a little bit ago about maybe doing partnerships with some of the large employers and finding a way to use those buses for that hour in the morning and hour at night, or during those schedule shifts, that they could be put on the system on a very part-time, short-term basis to see if the experiment works. And then you don't have to go out and buy any new equipment because we've already got it. Sure, they're getting end of life, but they're still usable. They're going to be sold to somebody. The engines, etc., are still there to be used. And it's something that maybe it could be put into the system and made work. So it's just a thought there, or for those rush hour periods, or like we even have this issue with the event center and not having parking. Why can't we use those buses, fix them up enough that they can be used for the large events that happen at the event center where we need parking? We already paid for them, so why not keep using them somehow?
Totally. Other questions? Mostly about, yeah, go ahead. Oh, Brett, here we go. This would be a good one. Yeah.
I'm Brett Irvin. I'm on the board. From Aiden board. Range is made out of this route and there are ranges that in both of them have their own hurdles and their own means. How have you weighted both and how it differ?
Let me try to recap that if I can, and just make sure I did. So basically you're saying fixed routes and paratransit both exist. And how have we considered both, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to take it? Sam? Sam's the only brave one here. Core team has to stay after class. It's all right.
A lot of them already did. And Brett's absolutely right. Anytime that we're doing paratransit or fixed route services, we have to provide paratransit services which are parallel to fixed route. So anything that we do in expanding routes or doing anything else, we also need to consider accessible transportation also. So that's just something that we need to do, and Brett and the rest of the team have to support to keep us honest.
Yep.
Hi, Eric Nelson from Bay Area in South Dakota. I was part of that ideation group last week, and you know, kind of like the first day of school, you kind of come in and terms, the fancy terms you're not familiar with, and what's going to happen here, and I think it was a great process to think big and get creative, and you know, and now we're talking about the halfway point. And I haven't looked at the timeline map too closely, but could you just talk a little bit further, you know, about in terms of months and weeks and deadlines and when other, you know, you obviously you're meeting as a core team, when you're going to bring in like another ideation group at different points to get feedback, just, you know, just in my mind, just kind of clarify a little bit more about what happens here, you know, until like this summer, I think it is.
Yeah, so this chart at the bottom, if you, as you're leaving, you can kind of see, we've been having regular touch point calls with our Bloomberg coach. The next time that she's actually coming on site is June 27th. And that'll be basically the capping of this program. So that over the next 2.5 to 3 months is basically when we're hoping to wrap up the learning process and these next modules. We have a touch point call, one in May and one in early June, and then she's coming on site here in late June. So we haven't really, they didn't lay out the entire course in detail in terms of when the next ideation session or anything like that would be, but there are some scheduled touch points along the way, and we're happy to bring you back in for any of those that you're interested in.
And I'm going to jump in here a little bit too. So this was like a pivot point for the team in the sense that they now have fully understood the problem. They will, as a result of all of your input today, help narrow to the specific solution they want to tackle for the next couple months. And then I am back with the team on site to fall on the not, I think it's next
get everybody out here on time.
I'm just curious if any of the core team members started riding the bus more after they experienced it.
Go ahead.
I have not. I'll share them. These are the stories that we have. When you run into people and you know them, otherwise you wouldn't have asked the question, right? The stories are difficulty getting to the locations. It's the time of travel. It's the near the location, how near it is to where they're trying to go, or how near it is to where they're leaving from their home. You know the answer. The answer is it would be very difficult for me to do that. And so that's when we get back to the empathy and the compassion. That's what's driving it. Is that it's not just fixing transit. There are people that we're working to fix it for, so that everyone can have that freedom, that mobility, because the ability to have access to that transit is the single greatest factor in them having economic mobility as well. And that is a place that we're all coming from. So no, I haven't, but I certainly am working to try to make it so that it would be a viable option for me and for others.
Very good. So we're gonna wrap this up, but that doesn't mean y'all have to go. We can stay and we can talk about anything in here. All of our core team members. I'm sorry. Yeah, make sure you drop your dots in the map, please, for us. All the core team members have a name tag like this, so you can identify us. And I just appreciate you guys so much for coming and showing interest in this thing and giving us a chance to explain our process and participating going forward. So have a great day. Thanks for coming.